He's making a list, he's checking it twice. He's going to find out who's a hero, coward, or villain in the TTRPG community. Hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. So, ever since the kerfuffle in the Middle East began a month ago, I've actually been paying more attention to Twitter than I have in quite some time. At first, news source that doesn't have that day-long lag that getting news on YouTube normally has. And then I've just kind of been doom scrolling a lot since then, and just kind of checking out all the stuff that it decides to recommend to me. I didn't like Twitter when it was Twitter. I'm not sure I like X now that it's X. Everyone's so angry. It's kind of nuts. People just kind of like go on there just to look for something to yell about. But, in such a spirit, I guess a couple of recent stories, we got yet another round of people making lists of what role-playing game publishers or writers are on whose side or what side, and whether or not you should be giving them your hard-earned dollars because they hate you, and all that kind of stuff, which, people are free to spend their money as they want, and, it's perfectly reasonable for someone to be like, you don't want me in your space, so I'm not gonna spend any money on your product. That's a rational transaction of sorts, so to say. Like going out of your way to declare certain people on certain lists, I don't know, it's never been a good look, period, throughout history. Various factions have had their various lists of people, and that almost never ends out well. So, whatever. People have also been bitching a bit about Matt Colville's MCDM book preview. That's for a book that's not even going to be out for another year or something like that. But apparently he said something too dismissive about our glorious founders. Look, I'm going to be honest, I don't really give a shit about Gary Gygax and the other OGs of D&D, because I didn't start off in this hobby playing D&D, so I don't have that sort of sentimental attachment to them. I'm not going to go out of my way to insult the guys and tell everyone don't ever listen to them, because we wouldn't have this hobby had it not been for them. But at the same time, since I don't have that innate D&D nostalgia from my childhood, I don't have this reflexive thing about the holy figure kind of way of viewing these guys. They're just people. We're all just people. But sometimes I think it kind of gets lost in the wind of how much D&D dominates the whole fucking hobby, that, there's a good chunk of us who came into the hobby in the late 80s, early 90s, up through the 2000s, whose gateway into the hobby was not Dungeons & Dragons. Palladium games, White Wolf games, GURPS, there was a ton of options there for a while, and TSR, as it was declining, was not the top dog in the hobby. There's a time you would, in the 90s, you'd go into a game shop, and it'd be hard to find the D&D section. It'd be at the back. Most of the space is taken up by White Wolf games, and there's a little period of time when that would be Rifts, Shadowrun, all sorts of shit. And it's sad that we've returned so much to being this D&D focused hobby, and in some ways I think the whole OSR thing reinforces that, because it's still keeping people contained into playing the D&D box. There should be a cycle where you get tired of playing Dungeons & Dragons, you go off and play a completely different game with different rules from a different company, a different setting, all that kind of stuff. But, all these D&D knockoffs allow people who are tired of D&D for whatever reason to still end up playing D&D. It's just off-brand bootleg D&D. So in the long term, I'm not really sure if that's really good for the ecosystem entirely. But, everyone wants to jump on Matt Colville for being disrespectful. And if you are writing a book that's supposed to be filling that niche, then maybe don't talk shit about the people who founded that thing. It'd be like if I was writing a Riffs book and, had this whole long section about how much Kevin Symbieta sucks. That would seem weird, wouldn't it? Not that that's even really what Matt Colville said. Technically, he didn't say anything more offensive than, my Immortal Arts commercial. Notice the part there where I, had the thing about how like this game doesn't use D&D's rules or carry any of its baggage. Like what Colville said in his book, that little preview thing that's being passed around on the interwebs, isn't that much different than what I said, except for the fact that since Immortal Arts isn't based on the D20 rule system or whatever the fuck we're calling it now, it has its own lineage, and saying that it's not using D&D's rules is just saying that it's literally not using anything from that classic rule set. And to say that it's not using D&D's baggage, well, that's much more about that modern state of that baggage. That's not really a statement about baggage from the 70s. I don't give a shit about gaming in the 70s. Once again, the hobby wouldn't be here had it not been for any of that. But also, we are allowed to move on a little bit. And also, once again, not everyone came up through that one particular role-playing game. So not everyone's gonna reflexively have that kind of, oh my God, how dare he question the founder? I don't know. I guess we'll have to put Matthew Colville on a list, though. And then we can put all the people who put Matthew Colville on a list, we can put them on a different list. And then we can have some master list of everyone. And then we'll need to keep a list of the people who are keeping the lists. And I don't know, we'll just solve everything with lists now. We'll have we should have a list keeping role playing game where instead of attributes and skills, you just have lists, because it's what we all are doing now. Perhaps the internet is poisonous and the hobby was better when we'd meet other gamers by leaving up ads at game shops and such, and you'd get to know new people piece by piece instead of being able to be exposed to all their internet bullshit, which kind of warps your perception of somebody. Doesn't really allow them to establish that relationship on its own merits, because it allows you to kind of pre-scan somebody and make up all sorts of opinions before you've even interacted with them. But unfortunately, that train has sailed. There's no turning back the clock. We are living in the world that we live in. So, I don't know. I guess I just have to make a list about everything I think that's wrong with it. Leave your own list in the comments below. And stay waspinated.